Thank you everyone for coming to our session. Today we are going to talk about consumption pricing and how to operationalize billing and RevRec. And with me today, I have John Griffin, the CRO and co-founder of Meter. And I also have Jagan Reddy, the CEO and founder of RightRev.
Good, John.
And I'm Jen Meehan. I am Neocol's Chief Growth Officer. So to start, I would love to hear from both of you about what your companies do and really why you started them.
Jagan Reddy, CEO founder at RightRev. We specialize in automating revenue recognition, accounting, especially on the Salesforce Revenue Cloud. So we are integrated with the complete quote to cash process. We do everything on it. My journey goes back almost like 20 years back, working in IT, trying to figure out, the company was trying to figure how to automate revenue. And then there was no good revenue recognition tool out there to handle all the complexity. So I started building a revenue automation software. This was back in 2004. Started a company back in 2009. We almost took a lot of technology companies, automation, blue chip companies, and all over the US. After 8 years, exited that business. Now that product is part of another company. And then started another one, once again, now RightRev, doing the next gen revenue recognition on it.
Hi guys, my name is John Griffin. I founded Meter. My journey was, I had a company before, GameSpark, so it was a back end as a service for games developers that had thousands of customers. It was great. But we leveraged usage-based pricing, and it was really hard. We messed up everything. Yeah, we made every mistake you could make. The company was then bought by AWS, who have nailed usage-based pricing, really. They've operationalized it perfectly. And so we always knew we were going to go again. So we decided to do something really boring, and let's take their capability, or at least reinvent it for other companies, and be able to operationalize complex pricing and billing for companies like we were. And so, yeah, that's where we came from. Hence Meter.
Great, thank you both. So today we're here to talk about consumption pricing, and I'd love to hear from both of you. How are you seeing pricing models in general change? What's that shift look like?
I mean, I probably have bias, and I want the whole world to go usage-based. It's happening. I would say we're still at the beginning of the curve, though. It's being adopted widely by companies that really need it. So you see it in tons of cloud infrastructure companies. You see it in development tooling. You see it in messaging companies like Twilio or Cinch or something like that. You see it in API-first companies, so all of the fraud or ID or anything or compliance industries. It's absolutely the dominant model. So what I would say is we're in our infancy. And by the way, nor are we zealots about this. We think the future is probably a hybrid pricing model, where you've got some subscription elements and you layer on some usage elements. And so, but I do really believe everybody will move there. I mean, not if I run a SaaS stack for a barbershops or something, okay? You're just going to price on customers, always. But for nearly everything else, particularly if it's close to the cloud, Salesforce are just about to adopt it. So yeah, we're going to talk more about that.
From the revenue recognition perspective, what we've seen on the consumption pricing, there's I would say, like in the last 5 years, there's been the first revolution of how do you do the consumption. Now we are seeing with all the AI components coming in, most of the AIs are being priced with credits, and how do you? That pricing model is getting super. Too many products in that consumption category. There's a tiered-based pricing within. There is no fixed pricing, right? You continue to look at your consumption. As you exceed certain tiers, your pricing changes. Your contract is already fixed. You know what you're going to be priced for certain tiers. Then how you rate your usage. All the changes based on the change. So that complexity is introducing challenges from how do you input.
Yep. And you mentioned AI, my next question. What's the impact of AI companies on pricing today?
The foundation of AI pricing, what we're seeing today, it's a very rapidly evolving business model right now. Nobody's going to be able to predict where it's going to go. But today, most of the AI companies are simply pricing based on the credits. So you buy credits, you consume the credits. Now, the AI services that you're consuming, some services can be super simple, some services can be super complex, and then what infrastructure you're using behind it, all this can create different pricing model with a single product itself. It's not even multi-product, it's a single product. Whether the AI model that you're running is using a simple GPU or you're going to use 10 GPUs and what kind of GPUs you're going to use, or speed you need to generate, all of that is going to create complexity in that pricing. And what we're seeing today is once again the first evolution of this pricing model. And you're going to see changes. I think over the next 5 years, this is going to be changing.
Very little to add to that. Just accept that the thing that drives it with the adoption of AI is the cost base, because they're paying huge outgoings, to use the AI. And so by definition, then you have to create a layered model on top of it that allows you to get that back. It will be prevalent though. And I think, Salesforce is just the best example, and it's so timely that they've just come out and said it, like our agents, technology, it's expensive, it's going to be price per conversation. And I think you have to do that. It's like you've no choice, because if I'm a busy user doing 100 conversations versus one of you doing 10, like I literally cost you money, and so they'll all adopt it. Everybody that rolls out Gen AI will adopt a usage model on top of it. And it just like, it'll be credit-based or token-based.
And John, you talk about companies switching from a SaaS-based to a consumption-based, similar to what Salesforce is talking about at Dreamforce all week. What are the impacts to those companies? So what's the impact to Salesforce in making that kind of switch?
So for me, there's two real impacts. I mean, I genuinely think that the metrics for a software business look better with usage models, and that plays out. So a good friend of ours, SaaS finance expert, has done a study of all of the public companies, okay? They have grown at twice the level, twice. That's amazing. 25% year on year against 13. Okay, it's not exactly twice, as a few mathematicians. It's like, what was it? Anyway, at 1.9. Anyway, listen. So I think commercially it's hugely significant. But I actually think the biggest issue is the tech stack. It's hard as heck to do properly. Revenue recognition is one of the biggest challenges. Like if I have these contracts and I decide I want to roll over credits on them, how do you account for that? Your poor finance team. It's like, so you got to then cap the rollover to 10%. That means I can't recognize 10% this year. I got to wait, right? It gets really significantly complex. Now, I would not say don't do it, because I think the 2x growth is motivating.
From what John said, like he picked up the most complex topic on rollover credits. But overall, migrating from SaaS to consumption is going to impact in everything you do. It's all like a start over from the scratch. We have spoken to several companies who really was migrating from SaaS. It almost, like I'm talking about $1 billion in SaaS revenue companies. It almost took them 2 years to even formulate the strategy to move. Simple way is, how do you even compensate? What basis are you going to compensate, right? Now, in the SaaS business, you have a clear predictability of your revenue. 12 months, you know how the revenue is going to play out. In consumption business, your predictability becomes a huge question, right? You don't know what's going to be your customer usage from this month to next month, right? Is it going to be sunshine or is it going to rain? Are they going to use it? You have no idea, right? Now, I'll talk about later how AI is going to play, but it's going to touch on everything you do. In fact, your customer contracts will change. Contracts with your customer will now have different terms on how they can consume your services based on consumption. Pricing, of course, has changed. All your finance metrics has changed, not just revenue forecasting, but your cost structure will change. How you recognize, how do you report revenue is going to change. Booking numbers will change because what are you booking? If you're going to work on a pay-as-you-go model, what are you booking? So every metric changes in the consumption model. That's why I keep saying moving from SaaS to consumption is almost you're starting from scratch and reinventing your model, which means you're changing your processes, your systems, your people has to be trained. So everything.
Yeah, it almost feels like we're going back to the perpetual license days where revenue was very lumpy and you weren't sure what you were going to get. And CFOs were so happy when SaaS and subscription came in because, ooh, I have this nice, smooth, predictable revenue.
One of the biggest myths in pricing, and a great friend of mine who's an expert in pricing told me this, is that there is a big thing about, oh, usage. I was on a subscription model, so I got 100 things times 99 as guaranteed revenue. Most usage-based companies build in, safeguards, minimums, prepayments. So actually, I'd say 95% of our customers, certainly, it's as predictable. And it's just upside. So I'd be reluctant about using that as the argument against, because I think it's just more effective. And I think you can safeguard the potential downside. So for instance, with a recent customer, they've baked in allowing for a 30% dip maximum. That's a big risk, right? Big risk. But it won't happen. They'll probably get 30% upside. No, you know what I mean? But anyway,
Awesome. And now with all of this change to consumption-based pricing, how has that changed the requirement placed on tools for billing and RevRec?
From overall from a quote to revenue process. How do I structure contract? So assume today you're selling 5 different products today to your customer. I will pay $1 million to you. Allow me to use all the services. Now, what we call that as a parent line item you're selling, and you're taking the $1 million and allowing the customer to go and use anything we provide, you can use it. So now your systems have to be able to handle all the different services they're utilizing. You have to monitor, meter. You have to understand how much they are using the metering. And then you take that metering and then start attaching to your contract and pricing to understand how much do you rate each of the usage so that they understand how much to invoice, how much to revenue recognize, everything. Now, all this kind of impacts your systems, what we're looking at, right? So that means you need a proper order management system. You need a proper metering and rating system. You need a proper billing system as well. Now, John touched upon the most complex thing, what we call is a rollover credits, which is a nightmare. I'm halfway through the contract and we predict like the remaining credits are not good for me for another few months. I want to come and buy more credits. Now, when you buy more, come and buy more credits, what happens to your existing remaining credits? You have to roll over to the new contract. But you already paid for that. Now, how does that payment roll over? So if you continue to look at each and every component, it creates more complexity into this. So it's not just one system. You are going to look at like every different processes in the code to revenue and look at how it's going to impact each and every different system.
I can only just concur with that. I think there's 3 areas that are very difficult. I think the quotation process, I think the measurement, metering, and rating, hence us, but revenue recognition, hence them. You know what I mean? And those are the 3 real pain areas that everybody will face. But they're solved for, and that's the really good news, and they're solved for within the Salesforce ecosystem. So know that there's help.
Now, typically what we see with enterprise customers, when they have consumption-based usage, they want to build their billing and RevRec systems in-house. They want to kind of have their engineers create their own unique special homegrown tool because they think that their challenges are very unique and special, right? They're the snowflake. No one else is doing business like they are. And we see that a lot. How would you recommend to those companies that they actually use point systems that target their specific and unique challenges?
I mean, I'm an engineer by heart, by the way, right? I still touch code in my company. I'm still looking into it. I love to code. I love to build. But the challenge for most of the business is your business is not going to remain the same next year or next 5 years. It's constantly changing, right? The focus for you is to enable your users to automate and try to use most of that, not in building things. So that's why companies like RightRev and Meter, who are very, very specialized in this, are providing solution. And our job is to keep up with the current trends that's going on. So for example, we have one of the amazing thought leader in the consumption business model as a customer. They went live with RightRev almost a year and a half before. And they are a thought leader, trust me. So they are kind of dictating to the world how to run the consumption business model. And we enable them on the RightRev platform to do revenue recognition. And they've been live for a year and a half. And guess what? Their revenue model is changing in 18 months. We are almost going back to the scratch and trying to change everything, right? And I was keeping this for the end of this session to reveal like some of the challenges we're going through. You go and buy a Starbucks gift card. Now with the gift card, you can go and buy coffee, you can buy coffee beans, food, whatever you need. Now, when you buy a gift card, they can tell you, you're getting 20% off on this gift card. So you buy a $100 gift card, but we'll give you 80, that's fine. But now when you go and buy coffee with that gift card, if they tell you, oh, for coffee, you get 10% discount. But if you buy food, you will get 30% discount. How complex is that now? Right? So you're offering 10 different services, but every services come with different discount patterns. Now that creates a whole lot of complexity, right? Now, it's not just purely taking the usage data and saying, what are the price you negotiated? Now you're looking at what service you're using as part of that, what discount we have offered, because every service has a different discount. And on top of that, if you're bundling your channel partner services into this, it's another nightmare you have. So now when all of this coming in, what is your main goal? You want to enable your business and customer to automate and successfully run, or you're chasing your IT team and your developers to go and build all this, right? So that's where we come in, we specialize, we're working with thought leaders to enable a product that can work for the current trends that are happening in the market.
Only to add to that, there's two things engineering teams generally don't have a great grasp on as when they embark on these projects. And that is A, how variable their sales team will behave, and B, the amount of compliance there is. And finance requirements. And that just really complicates the situation. So when you design your solution, when you get the first set of requirements, you're like, yeah, it's 6 objects in this model. I can write it, no problem. It's good. But you have no idea what's coming your way. The sales team's going to agree different deals with all these customers, going to need different plans. That one's on 3 months. This one's on 2 weeks. This one's on bill every month anniversary. And suddenly it gets really hard. So then I would say, is if there are great solutions out there, why build it? You don't build a CRM. Nobody builds a CRM today, do they? Now there's brilliant metering and rating. There's brilliant revenue recognition.
And many of you today have implemented so many different tools for automating your business process. I'm sure you're talking to your business team to say, okay, give me a requirement, we will implement. If you're building your own custom tool, you're looking at your business to get requirement. How many times have the business come in and say, I forgot this, I forgot this, I forgot this. Can you add it? That's going to be a constant thing that's coming in, right? So this is the issue. And we have also seen some customers, we're literally seeing it right now, customers who sometimes evaluate us and then they decide they want to go and build. They come back after a few years. Like, we spent millions and millions of dollars. We failed it. We want your help. So we see this pattern, but it takes time to realize once you go on that path to build on your own, you're not going to see it right away, but it takes few years after you spend tens and hundreds of $1 million in building and supporting it. That's when you realize by that time it's too late.
Yeah, they're underestimating the complexity. Just leave it to the experts. This is exactly what you do. Metering and rating is exactly what you do. So what would you recommend these companies look for in a point solution when they're beginning that journey?
I think the most important thing is how are these solutions be able to handle your, I would say, your use cases. Very simple, right? It's all your user stories and use cases. How do they handle? How do they really integrate with other co-solutions? Because you don't want systems running in silos. That's the most important thing, right? How can all be in one platform? How can they talk to each other? Super nice. And how easy is to configure and composable these systems are, right? You need a very dynamic system. You don't want a too rigid system, because even for you, however we implement today, in a year or two, you're going to keep changing these requirements, right? So make sure your single source of truth is on one platform as much as possible, on the code to cache at least. I just spoke this in another session. In a business, there are different mainstream process running, like code to cache processes. So please keep the code to cache processes on one platform, and on that platform, you can put point solutions which are consuming, reading, writing data on that one single source of truth. That's going to make your life very easy.
Yes, it's just look for solutions that have thought about the things that you haven't, the compliance requirements that you're going to have. Believe me, nobody wants to write a revenue recognition engine. Okay, it's hard as heck.
This guy does.
He does. Oh, he gets. Yeah, he likes that kind of stuff. You've done it now how many times? But okay, so yeah, just look for things that you haven't thought of. And so I'll come back to the point is engineers, great, they could do anything they want. They probably just don't have a great grasp on the requirements of sales teams and the requirements of finance teams enough, or the requirements of auditors. Okay, and so design, yeah, like you gotta go for vendors that have thought about these things that you have. Okay, done it hundreds of times.
Also spoke this morning about nobody gets fired for implementing a ERP solution, because everybody does it. You will never go wrong. Of course, it may not work for you, but you're not pointed finger that you did something wrong. But you need to be a thought leader to look at point solutions, say this is something right for the company to do it. And there are leaders who are doing that and others are following. So it's all up to you. Are you ready to take that first step and say, this is the right thing for my company to enable them to give a best user experience?
Yeah. Now, on the sort of management side, this is my final question, then I'll open up to you guys and let you guys ask questions. On the management side, the last session that we had here was talking about how to orchestrate your organization for a big transformation. So what are the different teams that you both see should be involved in an implementation like this?
Pricing change touches everything. And so it's sales, it's engineering and product. It should be led by product, in my opinion, but am I alone in that? So it should be led by product, I think. Sales is an important constituent. Obviously, finance are a huge constituent, but also customer success. So I think it touches everything, frankly. And I think the new stack of the future cuts across all of those departments and teams, which makes it, by definition, really complex and a hard change to do.
Jen and I, maybe several of you here, have lived through a huge revenue recognition transition we went through, still going through, ASC 606, which is about complete transition into the new revenue accounting principle. And as part of that, initially everybody thought it's only a revenue accounting change, it's going to impact only some part of finance team. But later what happened, it touched almost everybody in the business. sales comp, legal contracts, customer support, everybody got impacted. When you are shifting into the consumption business model, it is going to be the same impact. It is going to touch everybody. But the leader of the change is going to drive from product and finance perspective, right? They are the change leaders. They are going to drive it. It will be their responsibility to pull all of the teams to make sure they understand what are the impacts coming to them, right? Like we talked about, how would even sales think about sales comp when they're selling a $0 SKU? You're going to get paid as you go. What are they getting comped on, right? When are they going to get their sales commissions, right? I think customer contracts, the entire legal contract changes every, right? FP&A, what are they going to even forecast my next quarter revenue is going to be when I don't have any data to forecast, right? So it impacts literally everybody. There's no one exception to this, maybe HR. Okay, fine.
There's always more teams that need to be involved than you initially think. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the end of my questions. Did either of you have anything you wanted to add? Anything we didn't get to touch on before we open it up to Q&A?
No, I from my overall experience, I've been involved in the consumption business model and automating RevRec for the last 3 years. And we see this model is evolving very quickly. A lot of companies are moving. We have seen people shifting from perpetual to SaaS, and now that is all shifting into the consumption model. AI especially coming in is 100% going into the consumption model. There's no SaaS on AI. Everybody is going into the consumption business model. So it is another revolution of complete business process automation and changes coming in. So we are going to see a lot of point solutions also coming in to solve different pieces of complexity that's coming out, which we are not aware yet. So it is going to come in as we go. So we can do that.
That sounds like a RevRec nightmare. I don't know. Yeah. All right. And with that, I will open it up to the group. Any questions for our panelists today?
What is solution one, two, whether you're making it or not, you can move your own. What do you say works? It's a way of like managing all solution.
I mean, definitely CRM stroke CPQ to facilitate the sales process. Are you sales led? I assume you are. Okay, so you got lots of motions. Okay, that's important. So definitely CRM CPQ, right? That manages your pipeline, manages your quotation order process. On the other end, you need to get in the finance system. So you use your general ledger. But before that, you need to recognize the file taxes, do your invoicing, all that kind of good stuff. So that all needs to exist. I think the missing pieces are two. I think metering and rating has been missing, hence why we started this. I think an integrations platform is very, very important. So for some reason, people still want to replicate orders from the Salesforce environment into the finance environment. I think it's a fool's errand, frankly, but particularly because the product catalogs will look different in both systems. And so therefore, your sales order in the finance environment is based on a stack that wasn't even sold. Do you know that kind of way? Because you're transforming. So where was I? You need your CRM CPQ, so Salesforce. You need your finance stack. You could do your billing in Salesforce, obviously, with new Revenue Cloud. And then, well, you definitely need revenue recognition because that's hard. Okay, there's a couple of products out there. I recommend this one. And then metering and rating. I think that's been the missing piece, Frank. Okay, it's a messy middle. Okay, it's where people used to use spreadsheets or build it themselves. It's now automated.
On the revenue recognition side, especially, or even a lot of other processes like billing and everything, by default, you're going to hear ERP say we can do it, but they're going to do only like 10 or 20% of your requirement you're going to see. But you asked the question about point solution, especially on revenue recognition. If you're looking for a point solution, you're going to buy either the version 1 of the product I built or version 2 of the product I built. So there's nothing else.
I can confirm that. Great question. Any other questions?
No, that's a fantastic question. We started with a generic revenue recognition platform, which can work for perpetual license, one-time products or SaaS products, everything. We kind of built a generic engine. And then we got this consumption customer who's very big, very large, very complex. And then when we started looking at the requirements, we were pretty open to say, I don't think we can solve your problem. This is like super complex, but we'll be happy to partner with you to build. So we have spent the last 2 years in building a dedicated engine just for the consumption business model. So you can't pair this with your one-time products or SaaS product engine. That's a different engine. So the way we solved this, we wrote a complete separate engine for the consumption business model, because like we talked about, you have rollover capabilities you need to have. I didn't touch upon something important is you also give free credits. So you buy 10,000 credits, you give 2,000 credits. Metering system is just going to keep sending you, here's all the usage, take it. But then when you do the billing, when you give the billing data, you give that for revenue recognition, you need to know how much of that is free and how much of that you need to charge the customer for, how much to recognize. So all these complexities need a different engine to understand the data, classify the data, and then attach pricing to that data, what metering is doing, and then take that data to do the proper revenue recognition for that. So we built a special engine just to handle the consumption business alone. That's another great question, right? So I would say like we haven't 100% solved. It's a journey that we are going through right now. But what we understood is how do we forecast revenue for the consumption business? Because you have to look at the historical usage data. You're looking at the patterns, the usage data, and you have to segment. It is once again, it's not a generic solution. Every customer is going to come in and say, I'm going to segment my historical data in several different ways to understand my forecasting. Like for a company selling umbrellas, they need to see is it sunshine or it's a rain when the customers are buying, right? Now, for somebody who is using GPUs, let's assume, even that usage can go up. Like assume you're on Amazon and you're using GPUs for whatever services. On a prime day, that usage is going to go super high. On a normal day, it's going to be your normal rating. So applying one of the best usage of AI in the B2B systems we are seeing is the consumption revenue forecasting, because business really want to forecast because you're giving guidance to the street, what's going to be your revenue. You're telling your investors what's going to be your revenue. Without AI, I don't think you can do this. Or you have a huge number of people on your data analytics team trying to mine the data and figure it out, and you can't achieve the results without the AI.
If I may just add, by the way, it's a very important part of Meter, is that we invested heavily in a data science team from day one. And so we do forecasting. And the reason you can do is because we persist all of the raw usage data, okay? And that is every signal you need to know about your customers. So it's data science, sure, but it's really just machine learning. It's linear regression, okay? And we've got complex linear regression algorithms that give the most accurate forecasting that's been achieved to date. AWS did this themselves. We're just bringing this to market.
Great question. Thank you. Ryan?
How your solution, how you see using data influence and impact sharing that
Well, again, usage is brilliant at this. That it was hard to do with, models that have, I guess, less fidelity. The data tells you everything. If usage is going up, it's generally a good sign. Now, do you remember what I was saying earlier is that a lot of usage-based models become predictable because people put in place prepayments. And so what we monitor closely is the burn down against a prepayment. And we can see when it's going to expire. So we tell the rep months in advance, hey, this customer is going to churn. Do this. This customer is going to blow through. Don't send them an overage bill. They're going to hate you. You know, get in front of it. Do a renewal. Okay. I reckon we can fill a rep's pipeline by 30% every quarter just by this.
Also, like, even for churn analysis, AI is like super important. The reason is, like I said before, on a prime day, the usage goes high, and the normal day, the usage comes down, doesn't mean they're going to churn, right? Once again, seasonality comes more important. That's where AI comes into a big play to say, is this a true churn or is it a seasonality? What's going on? So we do see that usage data is like super highly important in multiple ways, right? One is to predict churn. Another one is to understand which products are being used really, really well and which ones are not going so well. I think usage data is such a gold mine for you to understand your user behavior.
Great question again. Any other questions? In the back?
Given you talk about all the systems to do something basic stuff, and you earlier said we were going to use that company both either. So now it's a 2x factor. No, I love your question. Essentially,
Subs is not that hard. Consumption will eat its breakfast. No, don't. We could do subs. It's easier. It's a subset of consumption. Okay, it's not that hard.
Not that hard. RevRec's not that hard either. These guys got it under control. Yeah.
It's more simple thing.
As long as you have meter and RightRev, easy peasy.
was there any way you could order? That queue.
All right. Any other questions? These have been great. Oh, all right. Well, thank you all for joining.